If you've ever wondered what it looks like to actually be in the middle of a PR campaign, what it looks like to coordinate interviews, to coordinate sample requests, to actually get featured, today's video is for you. We get this question a lot with brands that maybe have pitched themselves in the past, they've worked with a PR agency, or brands that have purchased our PR plans and we give them the full outline and they're like, okay, well, what does it actually look like to do it? So in reality, running a PR campaign is part strategy and it's also part relationship building. So we're going to go over what both of those things look like so you can get featured time and time again. Because like we always say here at Visibility on Purpose, every PR campaign is essentially like putting money in the stock market, right? It's like it's compounding over time. We don't want one press feature to be a one and done situation. We want to be able to get ourselves in the media, get our brands and our products in the media, and then we want that to kind of create more of a ripple effect where you can use those media features to get even bigger and better press. My name is Lydia, the co-founder of Visibility on Purpose. We are a PR consulting studio and we help brands get featured, get remembered, earn the press that they really want and deserve so that they can have a brand for the long term. Because reality is we don't just create a brand to not work. We don't create products. We don't go into R&D for years just to basically have it go nowhere, right? And there's a study out there that's done where most businesses fail within the first 5 years. And that's not something that we condone here at Visibility on Purpose. So really our mission is to help you get that press and really weave that into your strategy so that you can reach large audiences and not just be capped or stopped at your social media presence. So like I said, today we're going to walk you through what it really looks like to be inside a PR campaign. So let's say we've already done the foundational work. We have your angle, we have your pitch, we know when we want to send it out, and we have our target list that has the publications, the writers, and the podcasts that we really want to reach out to. And that's essentially what we do in our PR plans, right? We give you the entire roadmap, and the next step is to actually do the action. So this is the part where you're going to actually come in and send out those emails, send out those pitches. And if you don't know what a pitch is, it's essentially the email that we write introducing your brand. A lot of the times we do a fun specific angle catered to the seasons. We will pitch that or reach out to writers or publications, hoping that they will then feature you. And so it's this really cool organic relationship where we reach out with something that they're looking for. That's first and foremost something that I want you to understand is that the writers and publications, they need content. So they're really looking for you as a brand to reach out to them and let them know that you're a perfect fit for, their spring content, the Mother's Day gift guide, Father's Day gift guide, whatever the angle may be, they want you to tell them why you're a fit so that they can feature you. So just know that that's first and foremost what's happening in the media and why we're like, okay, it doesn't just stop at the foundational pieces. You really need to reach out and get this going. So let's talk about the pitching phase, what that really means and what that entails. So once the pitch goes out, you're not just blasting emails, right? And it's disappearing. We're tracking everything. There's actually ways that you can track like who opens. I use YAM, for example. So it's YAMM. I will put a little like logo up when I edit this for you so you know what I use. There's lots of different platforms out there. It's a super low cost. It's like I think it's only like $50 for the year or something like that. And you can send out emails and you can kind of track who's opened it, who's clicked it, and who's responded, right? And it also lets you know bounced emails. You'll get the bounce anyway in your email, but it's just like an organized list for that. So that's a cool way where you can reach out to writers and kind of track it. You can also do a manual system if you don't want to do that. Sometimes I think this is kind of crazy. Like most publicists would not agree, but sometimes I don't like to look at the opens and the clicks because I'm like, all right, I don't want to know. I kind of want to just like get surprised and excited when they reach out to me because opens and clicks are cool. Like they'll let you know if they're interested, but if you don't get a response, you can't really move forward with anything. So that information is like relevant, I think, to like see if your angle is hitting, like if people are reading the subject line and they want to open your email and they want to read it. But I think it's not really that important if they're not responding back to you. So that's what we really want. But anyways, we want to definitely track what's going on. This is the most important step, I personally think. You don't just want to send out your email, send out your pitches, and just leave it and say, like, all right, my work is done here. Because reality is a lot of writers, a lot of podcast hosts, whoever you're reaching out to, right? Your target media, they have hundreds of emails a day. I'm not kidding. They have that many. So we really want to be mindful that they are busy and therefore follow-ups are typically welcomed in this industry. So a follow-up is something super simple. You want to send out your pitch angle first, right? So like say we have our list, maybe it's got 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 contacts. We send them out depending on like who you're targeting, right? And what you're looking for. After about, I want to say like 4 days, maybe a week, you want to send a quick follow-up email that says like, "Hi, I just wanted to see if you had a chance to consider my brand, my products, X, Y, and Z, whatever it is. Thank you so much. I look forward to your response." You can even add in there if you want, like samples are available upon request. And this allows the writer to receive a little nudge one more time, or that podcast host one more time to give them another chance to respond. Now, I get most of my responses as a publicist doing this for many years in the follow up. That's why I say, like, do not stop here. I think a lot of brands, the first time they send out their emails, they get really discouraged when they don't get responses right away. And that's entirely normal. Please know that. And also understand that your first email is really just to introduce your brand and products to writers. Odds are, if you're doing a PR campaign for the first time, they have never heard of your products. And even years, sometimes writers may never have heard of your products. So, or you as an expert, if we're reaching out to podcasts. So just know that like they are probably learning about you for the first time. And so giving them that process to be able to read it, learn about you, it sometimes takes time. And something else to note is, say you don't get some responses. I have seen so many writers or podcast hosts months later reach out to brands, reach out to experts and say, "Hey, I filed away your email months ago. I'm actually working on a story, or I have a great episode idea I wanted to reach out to you for," right? And so just know that, like, as you're reaching out to these writers and podcast hosts, you're actually allowing them to, kind of like learn about you and like feed their own internal systems so that they can reach out to you when the timing is right. A lot of media is about timing. That's why I said, like, when you reach out with your pitch, you're typically saying, like, "Oh, it's the perfect product for spring or for Mother's Day gift guides or Father's Day gift guides," right? So a lot of the times when we're reaching out to them, we are simply introducing ourselves and allowing them to understand kind of where you fit in their content. So just know that, right? I keep saying like just know that, but seriously, if I could do anything for brands, it's to ease their nerves if they don't get responses right away, because sometimes it's a timing game and it's a numbers game when it comes to pitching. Now, another thing I want to note is when you're reaching out to writers and podcast hosts, you of course want relevancy. I think where a lot of brands get tripped up is they're like, "Okay, well, I know that my products are a fit for women's health, but there's a lot of writers that cover different topics on women's health." So you want to make sure, if your brand is a lifestyle brand, a wellness brand, a beauty brand, you're reaching out to writers that cover those specific categories, because writers are people at the end of the day and they have specific interests and they like to write about different categories, or sometimes that's their job title, right? Being the beauty editor or beauty writer. So you want to be aware of who you're reaching out to, even within that publication. I really do love that a lot of publications have columns. So a lot of brands can be relevant for magazines, even if it feels a little leaning one way or the other. So if we're talking about like Forbes, for example, it's mostly like a business publication, right? But they have so many different topics and categories and columns that they cover, which makes lots of brands a fit for that specific magazine. So it's kind of cool when you think about it that way, because it does open up your perspective for what your brand is a fit for too. Now, we're going to go to part two, because that was part one. So part one is like the actual process of pitching. Part two is the relationship management side. So when someone does respond, what happens? Like, what do we do, right? And again, writers, hosts, they're all people at the end of the day, and not everybody is the best at asking for what they need and want. So I always say anticipate needs before they ask you. So this is the most important part. I'm going to put it like up on the screen. Anticipate needs. So if you're a product brand and you're pitching a product, you are most likely wanting them to sample it, right? You're wanting them to review it, write about it. If they respond back and they say, "This looks so cool," I want you to anticipate their needs and think about the next step. What would the next step be? It wouldn't be another email saying, like, "Thanks for the feedback." It would be an email saying something to move things forward to your goal. Your goal is to get that feature. So I would say the next step for you in response would be something like, "Hey, I'm so happy that you think this is a cool brand. I would love for you to sample it if you'd like to consider it for your future content. Let me know what your address is and what your selection is, like what flavor you want or whatever it is, right? What color, and we'll be sure to send it out to you." Now, what's the difference between number one and number two? The number two that I just shared is basically bringing that conversation forward. That's what you want to do. You want to move the conversation forward to eventually get that feature. Because when we're thinking about lead times, it can take a moment to get featured. Sometimes, it could take a few weeks because they want to review the products and then eventually they want to write about it. And then when they submit the writing piece, their editorial team needs to look at it. So sometimes it takes like a month. Now, when we're thinking about service brands and interviews and you're pitching experts to writers or to podcasts, same goes here. If they respond back and they don't have a scheduling link or they haven't provided you with any really details on interviews, they just say, "I want to interview you." You want to ask for these few things. You want to ask for interview questions if they ask for an email interview, because there's two ways they can do it, right? They can email you or they can ask for a phone interview. Or if it's a podcast, it'll be most likely a video interview. So you want to ask for those details. Then next up is you want to ask for the times that are available. So you're going to ask for maybe the questions, maybe the times that are available if it's going to be a video or a phone interview. And then you also want to know deadlines for things. So, and this is for products and this is for written interviews. You want to ask these writers like, "Hey, do you have a deadline for when you need these things back to you?" So anticipating needs. And as you're doing that, I always like to add in my personality. So this might be that I throw in a smiley face. It might be that I make a little joke. Obviously, we want to make sure that we're like being, careful with the way that we respond to things because you don't know this person on the other side and they don't know you. So just respecting them, but adding in your personality is what I would recommend, right? So you want to add in respect, but also, anticipate their needs. So just think about like, what you would want to know on the other end. I always say, like, put yourself in their shoes and think about what you would need to move things forward and what you would appreciate hearing back. Now, part 3 is kind of what I've been going over, but it's that back and forth. There might be a lot of back and forth, or there might be minimal back and forth. There have been times where a writer said, "Hey, I want this, send samples, I'll feature it." You send the samples and you just write, "Okay, here's the tracking information so you know when it's coming to your house," and that's it. And then they feature the products. And, sometimes it takes a little bit more, because people are people at the end of the day and they might respond back to you and say, "Great, here's my times." And then you say, "I don't have those times available." So if you're going back and forth, actually, speaking of times, if you're going back and forth with times and you're not able to figure out one that aligns, what I always like to do is I will send them even like my scheduling link, or you can send a long list over the next few weeks of dates and times and say, like, select whatever it is that you want. This is when I'm free. This is so they can select a time and move things forward. Because if they say, like, for example, "Oh, I'm free on Monday the 6th," and you're like, "Okay, great. I'm actually not free on that day, but I'm free the 7th." And then they're like, "Well, I'm not free that day, but I'm free the 8th." It can be a lot of back and forth, and you don't want them to lose interest. So anticipating needs, giving them more options is always the best thing. And then the last piece you want to always send is imagery, whether it be for a podcast interview or for a feature online, they're going to want a picture. So you want to make sure that your pictures are prepped and ready to go. So this is professional headshots. This is maybe a product image on a white background. Most publications prefer white backgrounds. Sometimes lifestyle images. I personally love lifestyle. I think they're beautiful, but it really depends on the publication and what their vision is for the feature. Now, number 4 is securing press features. Once something is secured, we are still not done. And I don't want to overwhelm you because this stuff is really easy. It kind of goes back and forth very simply in email. But if we want to like peel back the layers and break it down, it's like number 1, we're pitching. Number 2, we're, going back and forth, anticipating needs. We're doing the follow-ups. That's actually 2 and 3. And then number 4 is like, we want to make sure that everything is secured, right? So we want to make sure that the correct links are sent, the correct product names are sent. We send all the right like information, in terms of like imagery, that sort of thing. We want to make sure that recording dates are confirmed. If you're recording like a podcast interview, you want to make sure that you have the correct link. The amount of times I have seen the correct, like people not send the right links. And this might be that they like sent the calendar invite, but they forgot to send the Zoom link or, the Riverside link, whatever it is that they're recording at. I always like to just make sure that everything is like very set to go. So a good tip is to maybe email them a day before and ask them like, hey, I just want to make sure I'm all set, X, Y, and Z. This way, like you're not bothering them, you're secured, everything is good. But the day before, you're like guaranteeing that they're there, especially for in-person interviews. In person, you'd be surprised that every once in a while, not always, not a lot, honestly, but every once in a while, there is somebody that forgets that they're interviewing. And so anytime there's a live recording or a in-person meeting, interview, TV seminar, I always say like, ask them the day before if everything is set and ready to go, because you don't want to waste your time or anybody else's. Okay, the last thing we want to talk about is when the press goes live. When the press goes live, a lot of the times writers and podcast hosts will not tell you. And so you need to Google your name. So I always recommend to set up Google Alerts. You can go onto your Google Dash and you can set up alerts for your name. If you have a very common name or your product brand is very common, you might want to Google maybe like keywords with your brand names. So for example, like maybe for us, we do visibility on purpose, right? And then we put in quotes, visibility on purpose, and then we write like PR plan and kind of scroll through Google that way. 9 times out of 10, you'll find it. And also you can track the people, right? Like if you spoke to a specific person at Martha Stewart Living, most likely they will be the ones writing about you. So you want to just kind of go on their profile page. Every writer has like a profile page if you click on their name where you can see like all of their stories. You want to kind of monitor that. And then same thing with the podcast, right? You want to go on the podcast and kind of like search through and see. Just know the lead time for these things can typically take 2 weeks to a month for editorial. And then for podcasts, I see more likely 1, 2, or 3 months out, they'll batch and record. And then after that, the last final step is talk about your press. This is so, so important. Like, yeah, the features are important for the SEO boost to reach new audiences, but there's so much that you can do within your brand with that press. You can talk about it with your current audience. You'd be surprised how many people convert when they see that you're featured in these big publications or podcasts, especially if it's one of their favorites. Like they might be the silent lurkers, like following you for a while. And then they see that your product was featured on, I don't know, we'll just say Forbes, for example. And they're like, I love Forbes. Finally, they might actually purchase the product. Or same thing with services. They may hear you on one of their favorite podcasts and then immediately be like, oh my God, I loved this episode. I want to buy from you. So just know that press is definitely a step of that strategy. But another step is integrating the press into your other strategies, like your social media, your marketing, your website, all of those things. So you can do so much with press. And that's why I say it's that like compounding effect. It's like we always say, it's like putting money in the stock market. Once you get a press feature in, you want to really use that to capitalize on other things in your business. So, lastly, like, subscribe, and comment as per usual if you like this content. If you want us to help you with your press journey, we have so many different offers. One of them being our PR plans that I mentioned at the beginning. This basically sets you up with all the foundations. So it allows us to write down exactly what to do in your PR campaign. It gives you the pitch, it gives you the target list of 5 to 10 outlets. And we've been doing calls with these. I don't know if we're going to offer calls forever, but we really like connecting with our audience. And I think sometimes you want to talk to somebody about this stuff. So after we send your PR plan, we get to have a little chat for about 30 minutes to 45 minutes and talk about what it is that you're going to be doing, basically this process. But of course, in our PR sessions, we cater them to you. So thank you for listening. If you found this helpful, please let us know below and we'll see you next week.